Hello! So, we're going to be building an API in this episode, and we're not actually going to be doing anything with Quasar, but the point of this API is going to be to make it easier for people learning Quasar to basically build something that uses an API without them having to actually build an API. And then the idea is, let me tell you why I'm doing this. Oh, by the way, I thought I'd show you guys, this is how I create my images. I've just got I just do like a silly little thing with Canva, and I'm trying to find ways to do this as quickly as possible. So I just duplicate something like this, and I want to be able to live stream quickly. So those of you that are like, oh, I want to live stream, but I haven't got an image, and come up with all these excuses. I'm trying to get rid of those excuses as much as possible. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah. So anyway, I want to create a beginner series, but the problem that I'm facing is I can't just build out an entire API in the beginning series of Quasar, because if I'm using Laravel and people don't want to use Laravel, well, frankly, the answer to that is too bad. At some point, you're going to have to be using Laravel to watch my more advanced videos, because I have to choose a backend. When will you make a simple auth and CRUD for Quasar and Laravel? Do you mean a package, or do you mean a video series that shows you how to do that? I'm just going to wait for an answer on that. And I know I said I would do it. It's quite hard to triage what I spend my time on. That's actually part of what this video is about. The fact, this live stream is about. A lot of people want me to use their backend. So, for example, there's the Laravel backend, there's GraphQL, and all of the different technologies for those backends. You could use GraphQL in Laravel. There's a whole bunch of Node and Express related backends, and I have to choose something, even a series for one video. I actually did talk about doing this okay, give me a second, I'm going to try and dig this up. I did do a series, a live stream setting up Laravel, let's say Laravel Sanctum Quasar. I'm sure I did something on this. It was a live stream, yeah. So Quasar plus Laravel Sanctum SPA. This is, whoa, it's got a, okay, it looks like people obviously want this, because that was a live stream and it's already got 229 views. So yeah, I should do a more official video for that. But yeah, this is basically me setting up an SPA with Laravel Sanctum and Quasar. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, then yeah, there's a video there. Maybe I can even copy paste this in. And there we go. But yeah, see, this is tough. I've thought about this before. How do I create a Laravel Quasar package? Do I make one for Sanctum and one for Passport? By the way, it's not a package. I should call it an app extension. Do I do one for Passport and one for Sanctum? How do I make it configurable? Should I have a UI component that has a basic login? This is actually what I do at work. We have a package that sets up Quasar with Passport. We use Passport because we need the extra flexibility. Yeah, so we've got an app extension that allows us to create apps with authentication really quickly. But then there's the different ways of authenticating. So I don't it's kind of tough. Everyone wants and needs a Quasar. Yeah, well, the good news is there's going to be a lot of Quasar and Laravel stuff coming up. In fact, that's what I'm going to be talking about today. In fact, yeah, so I might start off by opening GIMP just to give you guys an idea of what I want to do and what I'm going to be building in this live stream. So this is kind of a crazy start. I wanted to answer this guy's question. Not sure if it's just happening for me, but there's like double audio. Oh, okay, that's not good. I wouldn't be surprised, because I had to recently do like some weird audio stuff. Let's have a look here. I think I can play back my audio. Okay, it's not just you. I just played back my audio on the live stream, and it looks like I'm having the same problem there. I actually, believe it or not, I'm a coder, but I know nothing about this audio stuff. It's all a complete mystery to me. Let's see what happens when I change it to that as the output device. And how about I disable output in my stream? How do I do that? Oh my god, such a noob. Yeah, I think I could mute that. Let's see if that fixes the problem. I'll have to wait till the stream catches up to my voice. so I can check it. Also, hi everyone. Hey Doom! Woo! All right. Sorry about this wait, guys. We're going to get started in a second. I'm pretty sure that's what I want for my microphone setup. I'm just listening. Oh, okay, that did fix the problem. Sorry, I paused for a second then because I was checking if that did fix the problem. Let me know if there's any problems like that again. I'm going to keep my eyes on the comments. All right, so this is what I want to build today. Let me know if you think this is a good idea. I think it's an awesome idea, but maybe humble me and bring me back to earth because there's a good chance that it's not. All right, let's just use red, something like that. Yep, that's working. So, yeah, sweet. So what I want to do is I want to create a getting started series where we talk about stuff like, oh my gosh, that's so disgusting. We need like a harder brush. It's a bit smaller. Hardness. Yeah, so I want to have a series that, for example, talks about like boot files. I want to talk about linting, and we're probably going to build something like a blog app. I don't know if it'll be a blog or a to-do app. I haven't decided on that yet. I'm thinking a blog app because it is quite simple and it can lead. I'm just trying to like find out what allows me to hit the most features that Quasar has to offer. But anyway, the point is I want to create a video series, but we're going to need an API in the end. I think that's the reality of it. So the idea is I want to be able to build the beginning of the series like this using an official API that I'm going to host myself that people can use. So that kind of brings up a few questions like, how do you do this? And I thought about using typecode.com. What is it? Typecode. Yeah, it's jasonplaceholder.typecode.com. And the reason I thought about using this is, check it out. I can go to that website /post and it gives me a post resource. And it allows you to do stuff for things like photos as well. It can give you like links to different photos, to-dos. And it's just a really easy way to build an app using an API. And I thought, this is a really cool idea. Why don't I just use this endpoint? And the problem is, there's going to reach a point where I'm going to hit the limits of what this does for me. And one thing I really want to do is allow people to have their own data. So I want them to be able to hit post endpoints and for it to actually create posts for them without them having to host their own server and worry about all those kinds of problems. So, for example, this is my board of stuff that I need to get done. For example, I'd love people to be able to go to like quasarcast.com, or maybe like I was thinking something like blog-api.quasarcast.com, etc., right? And then when they go to that endpoint, they could say /posts and it'll create a post just for them. And you might be thinking, well, then you need to have a login account and authenticate the user and all that kind of stuff. But I don't actually think you have to. I think what we could do, and I'd have to ask the user's permission somehow, I think what we could do is use the person's IP address in order to identify them. Now, this isn't going to be foolproof. Obviously you're going to run into some issues where people have a similar IP address because maybe like they're sitting on the same home server. But I think it might be a good idea. Are you guys still getting an echo? Let me just unmute it. Oh, no, it looks like the echo's gone, so you might just be on a delay there. Adwia. I don't know how to say your name, sorry. Adwia. I bet you it's really beautiful when you say it properly. Anyway, gosh, I get distracted. But yeah, so the idea is, if on every single one of my models, just for this very special API, if in every single one of those models I had like 147.963, whatever, like the person's IP address attached to that model, then you could basically have your own personal API that would automatically identify you so that you can really easily create an app and play around with that API. And you don't have to do any setup at all. And then what I could do is I could basically just say, hey, every 24 hours or every 7 days, whatever I decide on, purge all of the data, right? So then by doing that, I might even down the line be able to, rather than store this data in a database, just store it like in a local cache, which means that it's really, really fast. And, all of you guys can basically have an API that you can use and learn off of. So the idea is the beginning of this series would use that new API, okay? Then when we get to the next part of the series, when we finish like all the basics of Quasar, we can then go into a server series or a backend series, right? And then essentially we can build this API again, but this time I'll build it for different frameworks. So we could rebuild the API using Laravel, for example. And then basically the user gets to rebuild the server that this server was using. And then to test if it works, they could then swap out, for example, environment variable that then points the API to their own local version of the API. So that way, people can have an introduction to Quasar, but then once they finish the introduction to Quasar and all the Quasar-focused stuff, then they can learn about building the server and connecting the server to Quasar. And it doesn't just have to be Laravel. I could build a Laravel series. I could also build a GraphQL series using, I don't know, what do they use at the moment? Like this GraphQL, but they're calling it something different, like Prisma. There's also like Prisma. So I could do one with Prisma. I could do another one with, I don't know, any other technology. There's like a really cool Node one that's come out at the moment that somebody was telling me about. I forgot the name of. So that's my plan. I want to be able to create a video series that runs through the basics of Quasar, and it uses this very special API that allows users to basically get up and running fast, so they don't have to install the API on their own server. It'll be publicly available on the web. Just in case somebody tries to like mess around and like attack the website, it'll just keep purging old data, and I can add throttling and stuff like that. And then when we're done finishing the Getting Started series, I will create a service series, and I can do it with Laravel, GraphQL, Firebase, whatever backend, and it can all be connected to this original series. So without further ado, that's the plan. That's what I'm going to be working on today. I've already built a proof of concept and it works. So I'll quickly run you through the proof of concept and then we can go ahead and move on. Let me just get out of all of this stuff. What else do I have here? We don't need that anymore. I'll probably keep Postman. And let's see if I can run artserve here. Oh no, I need to go into blog-API, artserve. And I think I'm already proxying that over to blog-API. Yeah, here we go. .quasarcast.test. So I might not even need to run the server. So now I should be able to go sudo service nginx start. Let's get nginx up and running and see if that works. And I might also need to get MySQL up and running. So let's hit that again. Cool. So we're getting not found. Let's try now going to posts. Is that what I called it on the back end? Let's just go to api.php for blog. In fact, what I'm actually sitting within the QuasarCast directory here, so I might actually jump out of this directory and open this one directly. So how about this? We say open this directory in code, come back to that original one and get out of it. Did I do anything? Oh, don't save. I'm sure it's fine. Cool. So now we're in this directory. Let's go to api.php. And here we go. This is the one I tested with. So I created a route using Laravel Orion. So the route's super easy to create. And let's go into that post controller so you can have a look at what it looks like. So this will automatically create a controller for post and do all of the endpoints for that. And here we go. In order to perform the store, what I do is I fill it with the request input. But this is the key. I then set the post IP address. So the post has got an IP sitting on it. In fact, let me go to post. This is where I create the post. Notice that I've created a string with the user's IP address there. And using that IP address, we can now identify that post. So we then save it into the database with that person who requested its IP address. Now, whenever we fetch the post, what we do is we say where the post's IP is equal to the request's IP. And I'm going to do some stuff to streamline this in the future, but let's see if we can just get this working locally first. Blogapi.com, so that should work. Yeah, there we go. So that's fetching all of the posts. Notice the IP is actually hidden. So that's because if we go to post.php, I've got it here as hidden. So let me just uncomment that and we'll come back here and run that again. And notice that the IP is set to my local IP address. So for you, if you were hitting this endpoint, it would be blogapi.quasarcast.com/API /post. I might even get rid of the API. It's redundant because we have the word API there. So I'd probably just make it that. Then you would easily be able to then create your own posts and also fetch your own posts, and it would be scoped to you based on your IP address. So I reckon that's really, really cool, and I can't wait to actually implement this. Now let's go ahead and do that. Let's see if we can get rid of API there. So by default, that won't work. And that's because if we go to, I think it's the route service provider, it automatically prefixes API. Here it is. It's prefixing API with the word API. So we can probably just go ahead and get rid of that, and I reckon that's going to work. We don't actually need any web routes. Oh, I might keep them because we might have like an FAQ page in there that has like the privacy policy and all that kind of stuff. So let's come back here again. All right, that's not working. What have I done wrong here? Let's try running it there. That's weird. It's running there, but it's not running in Postman. /posts. All right, let's try API /posts. Super weird. Let's copy that directly just in case I've like misspelled something, but I'm pretty sure I literally just tested this. We'll have to make that. Weird. Oh, it's because I added .com when I was explaining it to you. That was a bit silly. Yeah, so the GET request works, and let me just prove that the POST request works. Let's call this super awesome post. So you would actually be able to do this yourself. Currently, this isn't available online. My awesome post, and let's send that through. Not fine. Oh, that's because we don't need API anymore. And there we go. It's gone ahead and created that post for us. And if we do a GET request now, it's the one with an ID of 7. And there it is. That's the post that we just created. Scoped to my IP address, but we want to hide that. I don't want to be... Yeah, thanks, Doom. Dude, it's good to have you watching because you're going to catch like all my silly mistakes that I make. And it's those ones it's the silly mistakes that slow you down. This is why pair programming is probably so awesome. We're about to bring a new person onto our team, so it'll be super awesome to be able to pair program. I say team when really it's just me and the person who I built the app with, but I'm the only coder on the team at the moment, so I'll finally be able to pair program. All right, so let's go back to post. We want to make sure that IP is hidden. They don't need that data. Now, what I want to do is I want to streamline all of this. So if I go to post.php, oh, I'm in post.php, I want to be able to use a trait here that automatically adds all of this for me. So it handles all of the scoping to the IP address for me behind the scenes. And then I also want to make it so that if we go to post controller, so we'll probably have to custom write this code every time. Or in fact, we might actually be able to create a hook so we don't have to custom write that code. Because in an ideal world, I don't need any of this. All I need is that and everything just works, right? That'd be awesome. So let's see if we can actually make that happen. If I can achieve that in this video, then or in this live stream, then that would be really cool. So yeah, basically, rather than querying where the IP is equal to that, what I would like to be able to do is set a global scope on the post so that it automatically filters things by the request IP. And I'll be able to do that. I'll be able to access the request IP because I know that every access to this API will be a request. So we can sort of start doing some stuff like that, which you probably want to do in a normal app. All right, anyway, I'm talking too much. Let's just go ahead and see if we can make this happen. So the first thing I want to do is jump into app, jump into models, and actually maybe we'll create a traits folder, traits, and we want to create this trait that basically says, what's this trait going to do? It's going to say, it's scoped to an IP address. So we want to be able to say, for example, use is scoped by IP. I think that's a pretty good name for this trait. Now let's go ahead and generate that trait, is scoped by IP, and now let's have a look at how global scopes work with Laravel. And it looks like I can go ahead and create one. So I'm just going to copy, paste this into a file and then create a scope. Does Laravel have a generator for scopes? I don't think it actually does. It would be nice if it did, but I don't think it does. So let's say art here. And what have we got? Channel command. I'm pretty sure I checked this before and we actually can't create a global scope that way. So I might actually create a folder, I guess, called global scopes, or maybe scopes. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, we'll go with that. So then we'll call this maybe scoped by IP, I guess. Scoped by IP or IP requesters IP scope. Yeah, I think I'll go with that. That kind of makes... No, I want to know what it does when I use it. So scope by requesters IP. Yeah, .php. All right, let's go with that and paste this in here and have a look at what this looks like. So I'll call this... Well, we probably want to actually name it requesters. So okay, we'll follow this pattern where it uses the word scope at the end. So we will say requesters IP scope. Let's do things the Laravel way. And now I'm going to copy that and then paste it in here. So we get builder. We're going to be using model. And then we get scope as well. So now let's have a look at how we might build this. Apply the scope to a given eloquent query builder. And then we can simply say here where IP, because they're all going to have an IP field, is equal to, and I know that this is going to be a request, which is why I can do what I'm about to do, is equal to request, and I believe it is literally just IP. In fact, I'm going to open up a new tab here and just check that that's correct by going into that controller and seeing what we did here before. Yep, the request's IP address. And this is a helper that allows me to access the request really easily. All right, cool. Where IP, we don't even need the equal sign because that's implied. So now we've got the scope. Let's move on. Next thing I want to do is actually apply this scope when using the trait. Because ultimately, I should probably tell you this, ultimately what I want to be able to do is just say use and then a trait. And then by using that trait, actually no, what would be better is rather than extending a model, should I do it with a trait or extend a special model that automatically has that trait for me? No, I think I'd rather use a trait. It feels a little bit more transparent to me. So yeah, the idea is I'll be able to add a trait in here that does all of this stuff for me and also adds a query scope. So let's go ahead and do that now. Jump into the trait. Where is it? Is scope by IP. So it's automatically going to add IP to hidden, and it's automatically going to add guarded. The other thing we want to do is actually use that new query scope that we created. Applying global scopes. So all we have to do is jump into booted and then apply it. Looks like it's that simple. Except I'm probably going to have to... But the problem I run into here is what if I then want to use booted? I don't actually know how that works with traits. Is this going to like overwrite booted? So in that case, I probably should extend a class because if I'm extending a class, then I could call super here. I don't know. You know what? I'm going to stick to the trait concept, and if it falls over, then I'll change it. That's going to be my tactic for this. So let's go ahead and use that scope. It's the request IP scope, request IP, requesters IP scope. And there we go. And I guess that's kind of it. We can sort of see if this actually works now. So if I go to post, the idea is I'll simply be able to say you use request. What did I call it again? Is scoped by IP. Is scoped by IP. Did that import correctly? Yep, it did. All right, so I guess I can just check if it works by going into post and running this request again. Okay, cool. We're hitting an error. That's what we want. Define the same property hidden in the composition of... Okay, I think this might be... I think it might be saying that you can't use hidden when you're using a scope. Not a scope, sorry, a trait. That would be my guess. Like Laravel probably doesn't like that hidden is sitting on a trait. So what I might do is I might look up that error, and this is pointing to me to the fact that I'm probably doing it the wrong way, and we should be just extending a class. Define the same properly. Let's just copy. I think that'll be enough for me to find the error. Okay, I've actually seen this guy around, and I tend to trust him, so maybe we'll take his advice and just extend it. Yeah. Yeah, okay, this is making sense now. So let's try doing it that way. That's cool. At least I know how to do it now. And the idea is once I've implemented this in my future video series, I'll be able to just create APIs really quickly that you guys can then use in order to use my QuasarCast tutorials, which I think would be awesome. All right, so instead of having a trait here, we're going to have a class. And the way I might do this is basically create a... Oh, it looks like I already started down this line of thinking before. Scopes to request IP. What do I call this? Scopes to request. Yeah, that kind of is what it does. Let me know if you can think of a better name for this class. And now I can probably just take all of the stuff that is sitting inside of my trait and just whack it directly in there. I'm going to keep the trait for now just in case. Request. What was it called? Requesters IP scope. IP scope. I'm not sure I like that name. And so this is going to be a class that we extend, meaning let's just have a look at how model does this. Oh, of course, we'll extend model here. Extends model. I've never actually done this before, but I've always wanted to create like a base model class. And then the idea is rather than extending model, we extend scopes to request IP. Since pretty much every model in our application is going to do that anyway. This might not be the best way to do it. We could extend model, but then also, yeah. All right, I'm gonna try this for now. I'm just thinking out loud here. So now instead of extends model, we can extend scopes to request IP. For some reason that didn't import. Use app backslash models backslash. All right, I don't know why that didn't auto import. We don't need to use that anymore. And then the idea is this should automatically have booted. Let's just see if that works. Okay, looks like it's working. So what I might do to double check this now is get rid of IP from hidden and try adding an IP address, adding a post with an IP address that's different to what my current IP address is. So we should be able to do that by saying art tinker post create. We can probably just say post factory, and I think that automatically creates a post with a random IP address. No, it doesn't. So I need to set the IP manually, which is kind of what I want. So now I can check that I'm doing things right. And we'll put in something random here. All right, so now if I try and get that post, sweet, I'm not getting that post that I just created then. So this is, and let's see if I can get the one with an IP of 8. So let's see if we can do it that way. If I try and get the post with an IP of 1, that should work. But if I try and get that IP with the post with an IP of 8, yeah, I get no query results. So this is working. This is really cool. And let's make that hidden again, now that we know that it's working. I don't need that, and I don't need that. Whoa, this is going to be so clean. Man, Laravel makes this stuff so easy. So, okay, so let's see if we can take this further now and basically implement this same concept with Orion. So if I go to Orion now, actually, this isn't indicative yet because I'm refiltering it again there. What I actually want to do is get rid of that and see if it still works. Or let's try and, what am I doing? What am I actually doing here? Yeah, all we're doing here is filtering it by the IP address. So I should be able to remove that code because we now have a global scope that does it for us. Oh, this is so cool. Nice, that still gives us an error. And now we can actually fetch a post that is scoped to our IP. Okay, what else? I would love it if I could remove this. And basically what we could do is we could say every single time we try to create a model, because every model in this entire API, probably including the user, is going to be scoped by IP address. In fact, am I doing that for the user? No, we don't even have a user endpoint because... Well, actually, I don't think we use users at all in this application. How does it know who the user is then? How am I doing that? Oh, I've disabled authorization. Yeah, okay, so we have no users for this application since, because of the nature of how it works. In fact, I could probably delete the user table. I'm kind of scared to. Let's just rename it. Let's rename this to user backup. If I were using correct version control, I wouldn't have to worry about this, but I haven't done that. Bake cup. Let's give it another try and see if it still works. Yeah, we don't even need a user for this application. So let's do this. Art db wipe. We'll wipe the database. I'm going to delete. Man, this is going to be so basic. Users. We've got the users table. I can go ahead and delete that. And let's go back to Postman and see if it still works. Oh, of course it doesn't work. We now need to migrate the database. Back to Postman. This time we're going to create a post. So let's go ahead and create that post again. That worked. And let's hit the post endpoint. And it's still working. Man, this is so clean. So now, I want to be able to make it so that we don't need these lines of code. And I think Laravel actually allows us to hook in to model events. So let's go to events here. And I think there's like a model before create event. There's like a global model before create event. I know there is. How about this? We say Laravel model before create event, or just really I should just say model event. I don't think it's in there. I know I've seen this before. Let's just open a bunch of these up. I'll look a little bit closer this time. Models. So that's, I've used observers many times before, but that's just for a specific class. I want to basically look for an event on everything. Yeah, so that's a specifically for a user. Muting events, saving us. Okay. That's not relevant. Events. So we want to find an event. Man, where did I read this? If anyone wants to help me try and find this online, then let me know. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to subscribe to a global model event. So I want to say when any model is created. In fact, let's do some like super specific Googling here. Watch for all model events Laravel. How to trigger model observer for all model events. Tremendous. I don't want to make a trade. I want to do it for everything though. The use, no, I don't care about traits. Does this automatically, except the columns are named? No. Man, they all go down the trait path and nobody even talks about the global events. So let's look up Laravel global model event. And actually, before I do that, how about we actually try and look at the API? So let's go to the docs and go to prologue. Oh, I thought the API was in prologue. Maybe it's in getting started. Oh, they've moved it to a different section, API documentation. I don't know, let's maybe just search for event to begin with. Or maybe it's like created. I can say like, sorry guys, I know this is probably boring, but hey, that's what this is. This is me trying to figure stuff out. Listen to any, here we go. It looks like that's exactly what this guy wants. Yeah, okay. Check out this. Figured it out. Had to dive deep into the source. Event listen. Eloquence. Ah, okay. Yep. Oh, this isn't a bad idea. Why not extend the model class? Oh, okay, since we're going to be extending this class anyway, why not just add it direct? Oh, this is such an obvious answer. So, say classic Luke, I was actually going down a rabbit hole, which was the wrong rabbit hole. Scopes to request IP. So we've got this class, which we're going to extend for every request that we're scoping. So why don't we just come down here and add it in there? Actually, but the boot shouldn't be there. We should have this at the top of the file. I'm creating. So whenever this is creating, I basically want to do what I was doing before in the post controller. Okay, so we basically want to fill it. It's going to do that automatically for us behind the scenes. Or maybe I should do this after it's been created. Okay, think about it. No, creating basically allows you to tap into it whilst it's being created. So I think what I can do is say model IP is equal to request. We can pull out the request IP. Once again, never do this unless you know that this is only... The only reason I'm using this request helper is because I know that every single time we hit this, it's going to be a request due to the nature of the application. So what I can do here is while it's being created, set the IP address. So I know that whenever it has this class, it's going to do that for me. And I should now be able to get rid of all of this code here. So let's just comment it out for the time being and see if it works now. Yep, I think that's it. So let's make a few of those. Oh no, that's wrong endpoint. Super awesome post 2. All right, so it's not working. Let's have a look at how creating event happens. Creating. Am I supposed to return something with the creating event? How about we do, have I got Laravel Ray working on this yet? Probably not. Let's go ahead and install Laravel Ray. Laravel Ray. And see if we can get that working. Go to the docs. If you don't know what Laravel Ray is, it's like the ultimate tool for debugging a PHP application. It's actually not Laravel Ray, it's just Ray. Works with other platforms as well. Composer, install. How do I install it? Getting started. Install the free package. Here it is here. In the meantime, I'll open Ray because it's probably an update because this is like super highly under development right now. For Laravel, and there it is there. There we go. And here's Laravel Ray here. And hopefully I'm not going to have to do too much setup and it's just going to work, but that never seems to be the case, does it? So let's run that. I don't need to deal with Docker or Homestead. So maybe it will literally just work straight out of the box. So here's Laravel Ray. Basically what I want to do is check that this is running. So let's hit the endpoint again. Go to the post endpoint, open up Ray. There we go. Something's happened here. Yeah, it's okay. So that was actually run, meaning that when it's being created, this is being run, but the model IP is not being set. So let's see if we've actually got the IP address and that's working. Hit that endpoint again and check Ray. Ray, such a cool name. Oh, new update. I knew this would happen. Have to restart it. Integrate and run. Let's run this again. Send that bad boy through. I should have colored it differently so it was easy to find. Okay, so we're getting null. It looks like we're not actually getting an IP from the request. Why would that be? Why would that be? Ah, IP is a function, I'm pretty sure. So let's try that and see if it works. Run it again. All right, it's working now. Really, really cool. So we just created that post. It's got an ID of 2. Let's go post 3 and create that as well. And now let's run that query. We're getting all of those posts, 1, 2, and 3. Now let's go ahead and run Tinker and see if we can create a post with that random IP address. And now if I come back to our application, run it again, that post is showing up and it definitely should not. So it's not being filtered by the IP address, which is weird because I'm pretty sure that I thought the global scope was working. We tested it before. So that's sitting inside boot. Have I got another? Maybe it's got something to do with that. The fact we've got boot and booted. Okay, that's weird. Anyway, I can probably safely delete that bit of code anyway. So let's say post all, and I'm just going to pluck the IP out of those. Why would that not work? No, it's probably because it's a private property. Oh, okay. So what's happened is because I've created it using when I created this using the CLI, even though I set the IP manually, we got an issue. So okay, so I might be able to do this. Let's say post first. So I'll grab the first post, and we'll have to set that to a variable post. Now let's say post IP is equal to just something random like that. And now I should be able to say post save. And even though it's a private method, I think it will still work simply because I set it manually. Looks like it might have. Nice. Okay, so yeah, it has been working. The problem it didn't look like it was working is because the IP address it was automatically being set when it was booted. This is really effing cool. For those of you that have just shown up and don't understand what I'm doing here, I just want to paint the picture of what I've done. And honestly, it's crazy because I barely did any work. I'm just working off of the back of other people's amazing hard work here. And it's cool because I was able to come up with this idea, and Laravel's so flexible, it's allowed me to build it. So let me show you what I can do now. All we have to do is extend scopes to request IP. And what that does is it means any model that is extending this, whenever you try and create that model, it's going to scope it to the IP of the person creating that model. What do I mean by that? So if I try and create this post, then if my IP is 123.123.123, then that post is automatically going to get an IP of 123.123.123. And when I try and get all of the posts, it's only going to give me posts where the IP is equal to 123.123.123. Now, why is that cool? That means that I can have an application that has no authentication. You don't have to authenticate to use this API that I'm creating here. But you can create posts and it will automatically use your IP address to identify you when it creates that post. And then when you try and update when you try and get all of the posts, it will only get the posts that you created, because it will then check your IP address to check that that post is actually your post. So the reason I'm doing this is I will then be able to, for my tutorial courses, create an API that is sitting on the web, like live on the web, and you'll be able to go to blog-API, that's what I'm going to call it, .quasarcast.com/post in order to create a post, or get all the posts, or get a specific post like this. And it's also going to work for example, comment. If you want to go ahead and get the comment as well, I'm going to have this live API that you can use, and you don't have to install anything on your local environment. It will just work and will act as if you are the user using your IP address. How cool is that? I think that's really cool. All right, so let's go ahead and start building this further. And by the way, since I'm using Laravel Orion, you'll even be able to say /search. And what about IP spoofing? What do you mean? You mean people like basically faking their IP address? If by that you mean faking their IP address, this is kind of an issue that you sort of have anyway with user accounts. And obviously you have to put things in place for dealing with those problems. And what I plan on doing to deal with stuff like people, creating fake IP addresses and trying to do attacks and stuff like that, to be honest, I'm just going to hope that people won't to begin with. Because of my setup, if somebody tries to attack my site, then basically all they're going to do is put a whole bunch of data into my server, which is going to clean itself up anyway every 24 hours or so. But to try and mitigate that as well, I will use throttling. So what we can do is we can throttle routes really easy using Laravel. You basically just add -throttle. In fact, how do I do this? Anyway, I'll look into that later on. But yeah, basically what we'll be able to do is throttle certain IP addresses if somebody's trying to, hit our API over and over again. And if they're constantly hitting the the endpoint with different IP addresses, then, to be honest, it's just one of those problems that you have to take. It'll be one of those things where down the line, I'll start using Laravel Sanctum to try and mitigate this. Not Sanctum, sorry, what's it called? Laravel Vapor. And if we end up with somebody who's malicious, then this should take on most of the hit and allow me to handle a huge amount of requests. But then if it gets out of control, then I'll probably have to start looking into different avenues. But basically, I'm betting on the fact that the chances of somebody attacking this site is not going to be very likely, because they'll have to put a lot, especially if I'm using something like Vapor, they will have to spend a lot of money on resources in order to attack the site. And later on down the line, we'll be using Redis behind the scenes in order to send requests really, really quickly, rather than constantly storing things in a database, to also try and mitigate that. So the truth is, if there is somebody who's super malicious and they're willing to spend hundreds of dollars to try and take me down, then I'll just be like, look, sorry guys, I'm going to have to take this down. I'll put the source code on GitHub so that you can go ahead and install this server locally. But I'm basically betting on the fact that nobody's going to be willing to put in the finances to try and attack my site. Yeah, a lot of what I'm saying right now comes from articles that I've read from a guy called, his name is slipping from me, but he's the creator of Fathom Analytics. So Fathom Analytics is an analytics platform that's trying to take on things like Google. Let me show you. Trying to take on big companies like Google Analytics. And this is actually created using Laravel Vapor, what I just showed you, in order to serve huge amounts of data, basically handle a huge amount of API requests. So that's why they're using Laravel's new Vapor platform. And this guy who created it, there might even be his name. Where is he? Is there like About Me page? There probably is somewhere. Company about. Yeah, Jack Ellis. This is the guy here. He's a really cool guy. Check out some of his articles. But he talks about dealing with sort of large-scale attacks because he got attacked big time when he was building Fathom Analytics. And he talked about how he created like a ragtag team of AWS professionals to try and figure out ways to like mitigate against those attacks. And he's going to be releasing packages to deal with all that kind of crap in the future to try and help other people that get these sorts of attacks. So I'm interested in that. All of that to say, like, I do have plans to try and deal with these problems, but I don't think it'll be an issue. The other thing I can do, and I won't talk about this anymore, I'm just really curious about this stuff, and I think it's a great question that you ask, Ricky. But the other thing that I'm going to do is, I could do is basically make it so you have to have an account. So if people start, using IP spoofing in order to hit my servers really hard, and so I can't use throttling, and they're really that determined to take me down, I'll just be like, all right, this sucks, but fine. From now on, you have to create an account, and then I'll have like a robot check, and that'll suck because then whenever somebody does my course, they have to create an account. But, it's one of those things where that probably won't happen, but if it does, then we can deal with it when it comes. So that's the long-winded answer to that question. Okay, so let's move on. This will be fun because now let's have a think about what we actually have to do here in order to create a new model. First, we have to create a migration. So let's go to post migration. Let's go to post _ yeah. So we have to create a migration, and we have to have this IP field on every single migration for our models. So there's that. Next, we create the model, and as long as we are extending scopes to request IP, it's going to work, which I think is super, super cool. That's all we have to do to create a model using this setup. Then, if we go to, we have to then add the API part of it. So we go to api.php. I'm using Laravel Orion to quickly scaffold out an API for me. So we then need to reference it there. And then all we have to do then is create the controller. And that is the entire controller. Like, I don't even need that anymore. Don't need that anymore. How amazing is that? That is everything we need to do in order to create an endpoint that you guys will then be able to use for your applications. So this has been a long-winded way of saying, let's go ahead and basically this has been a long... it's been long-winded so far. So let's actually go ahead and start doing some of this stuff. Let's say art, make model. And now that we have a post, we probably want to have comments as well. I'm guessing we'll want the concept of comments. So we'll say comment, and I'll say or, meaning that it's going to scaffold out all of the stuff that make a comment. So let's go to comment.php and make sure that is extending, what did I call it? Request. Oh gosh, I keep forgetting what I call this. Scopes to. Here we go. Scopes to request IP. I don't know why that's not auto importing. Let's try it again. Scopes to request IP. Doesn't matter. And then here we can say use app. Scopes to request IP. Change that to a capital A. What's going on here? Oh, by the way, we don't need that trait anymore, do we? No. We can delete that. Scopes to request. Oh, that's right. In the new Laravel, we have in the models directory as well. Ah! Butterfingers. Okay, so that's how we set up the model. And I'm going to create a generator for this later on as well, which will make it even cooler. Imagine if you could have a generator that basically asks you what's the name of the model, it automatically creates the model, it creates the factory, it creates the migration. We probably won't have a seeder, and it'll automatically set up the controller and automatically add it to my API routes, which would be super cool. But anyway, moving on. Let's go to comment factory. And what's a comment going to have? We should probably go to the comment table to begin with. So, like we mentioned before, we have to have a string with the IP address. What next? We probably want to have just a body for the comment. Oh, this kind of hits an issue because we now need to have a user who actually made the comment. And that is the one thing that we don't have in this application. But you could make it so you can make, like we could make it so that they can create fake users. Yeah, there's no reason we couldn't then have a user table and they can create fake users. So in fact, before I create the comment, let's go ahead and recreate the user table. So we'll come here and I might actually delete all of the comment stuff. Sorry guys, I know it's probably boring watching me do all this stuff all over again. Comment seeder, comment controller. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and run this again. Oh, it's gone now. It's all right, we'll just copy paste it from here. Rather than comment, we're going to create a user. Factory already exists. No, that's all right, doesn't matter. We can then tweak it to our liking. Scopes to request IP. I think you should call it scopes to request IP model since it's technically like a base model. Request IP model. Yeah, I agree. That makes a lot more sense. Because this has always kind of hooked me when I've read it. Scopes to request IP model. Yeah, cool. Thanks for the advice. Let's rename that. Rename that. Oh, I don't think I actually need to use it since it's sitting in the app's namespace anyway. So pretty sure that's all I have to do. IP model. Yep, cool. All right, so now we've got the user. Let's go to the user migration. Users table. Man, I'm going to be so bad at pair programming. I can't help but describe what I'm doing when I'm showing you this stuff. And I get really distracted. And it slows me down big time, but I get so excited about sharing like the stuff I've learned and all that. So anyway, it's coming soon. I'll have to get used to being a little bit more pithy. So IP string. Now a user is going to have a name. That'll be string name. They won't need a password because we won't have to deal with authentication or anything like that. They won't even need an email. Honestly, I'm pretty sure that's all we need in order to create our user. So let's go to the user factory they had for us. And name, we don't need... Yeah, no, this is all redundant now. We will need an IP address, which is actually going to be equal to the IP address of the person making the request, just so that they can basically have their own sort of set of users. And what I might do is I might just say... Here we go, here's an idea. We're going to say collect random, and let's just keep a small set of IP addresses that we use. So we'll say one of them is .123 222.222.222. No. It's meant to be 4, isn't it? Yeah, oops. Dot. I don't know, something like that. This one could be... Yeah, we'll make them super simple to read. And we might just do one more. So how about, I don't know. Or we can make it like a joke, 789. Now whenever I read that, I'll kind of laugh to myself. And I'll just lay this out a little nicer. There we go. And what's wrong with that? I don't need to terminate it at the end. And now we should be very easily, let's just migrate the database. What doesn't it like? Oh, all right. ch own. Who will set that to? We'll set that to Luke, which is me, and then www dash data. We want this. Oh, I hate doing this stuff. I'm so bad at it. And that's not permitted. We'll have to say sudo. Let's try it again. All right, we should actually get an error now. IP does not exist. Oh, I bet you guys caught that. I did something wrong in the migration, didn't I? Haha! This should be... I put them the wrong way around. A string, which is the IP. All right, let's migrate that. There we go. It's working now. What happened to my other migration? I thought we wiped the database. Art db wipe. I thought wiping it... Migrate. Whoops. Migrate reset. Let's bring us back to square one. And then migrate. Oh, worked that time. Okay, so then let's go to our seeder now. Database seeder. And then what we'll do is we will create a bunch of posts. We'll create a bunch of users as well. Let's create like 5 users and a whole bunch of posts to begin with, maybe 10. And let's say artdb seed. And there we go. That's seed of the database. So let's come through here now. And if I say get, really I should actually get nothing. No, I'm getting a whole bunch of things. Okay, so it's not working. What have I done wrong here? Oh, you know what? I bet you when I'm migrating it, oh, the factory isn't going to work. I wonder if there's a way to know if I'm creating it in factory mode. Oh, you know what we could do? We could probably check if we actually have a request. No, because there will be a request. Look, so let me just explain my problem here. What's happening is when I migrate this data, the event is actually being called. So if I go to, yeah, this request is, oh, we can get rid of that. Creating is actually being called when we use the factory. So basically, I want to be able to say, only call this when it is an API request. So I bet you Laravel has a way of disabling scopes. We could probably just do that when we're using the factory. So query scopes. And there must be like a way to disable it. Laravel disable query scopes. Let's have a look at this. I don't think he's actually answering the question that I need an answer to. Remove global scopes method. Okay, but that's only on the query builder. Honestly, this kind of tells me I'm doing something the wrong way. I'm going to leave it for now. I don't know the best way to solve this problem. I don't know the best way to basically say this is a request, therefore set it to the IP. Let's try this. Let's say Ray. I want to find out what's happening behind the scenes. And now if I open Laravel Ray and then run this again, I should be able to actually print out the request itself and get a little bit of data on that and see if I can find out a way to identify what kind of a request it is. So if we see that again, Ray should go bananas. Yep, here we go. And I just need a little bit more context here. So maybe we can say like Laravel check in factory mode or something like that. Laravel check is request. Laravel check is request. Something like that. Check request. No. Best way to check if value is sent in a request. That's kind of what I'm looking for, isn't it? That's not what I mean. This Martin Bean guy's awesome. I see him all over the place, and he's just always answering people's questions. I could try and get the current URL. I mean, that feels a bit janky to me. Get URL. Or you know what might make more sense? Just check if I'm in development mode. And if I'm in development mode... no, that's a stupid idea. Ignore that. The incoming request. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, I could maybe try and get the URL of the current request. Request base. Okay, we got no base URL. All right, that's probably really helpful. Whereas if I send this through Postman, I probably do have a base URL. So that might be a janky way of kind of figuring this out. So this is the request. So this request was sent through Postman. What's that? That's 35. This one's 41. Yeah. All right. So why do I have base URL here, but I don't have it on here? I don't know. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Same with base path. So how about we do this? How about we try and get the base URL? Request base URL. Let's just try it like that and see what happens. Man, I'm used to having like multiple screens here. So I get null there when I do it through Postman, which is really weird to me. Why would I not get a base URL when I'm sending a request through Postman? But I have a base path, which is set to nothing. Man, this is confusing. Or maybe that's actually a cache, or cache, however you say it. So if I send that again, all right, I'm actually getting an error now. Okay, so it's probably telling me that that's not actually a method. Let's go back to Ray. Hang on, so we do have base URL, but it's sitting up there now. Sure, null. On one of them we get null. Okay, so it looks like we get null when we're sitting inside of Tinker for quite a few of these. Look how... So we can probably get some sort of information from here. I might use base path. They're both set to an empty string. All right, this might be the wrong sort of line of thinking. Is host valid? Is valid. Route resolver. So we get a route resolver. That could be helpful, actually, knowing that we have a route resolver. So we don't have a route resolver when we're using Tinker, but we do have a route resolver when it's an actual request. So that might be a good indicator. So how about let's take a look at that. Run it with Postman. Oh wait, that's giving us a closure. This is starting to hit the limits of my Laravel knowledge here. I should be able to just call that closure, right? What's this error related to? If I get rid of that line of code, do I still get the error? Nope, so it has got to do with that line of code. Let's come back again. We've got the request itself on there. Yep, they both have the request. Maybe headers. No, it wouldn't be. They'd probably try and keep the same headers. No, I'm going down the wrong path of thinking here. How do I know that I am using Tinker? So how about check is Tinker Laravel? How to check Dart? No. Without global scope. I could do that, but actually, yeah, why don't I just do that in the Cedar? That's a really good point, because I thought I couldn't use without global scope, so why don't we just use that directly in the Cedar? Oh, Doom, you're a genius. Oh my god, it's so obvious. Yeah. Yep. All right. Mate, thank you. Art. I was thinking about doing that before. Why did I decide not to? So that'll wipe the database. Let's migrate it again. Let's see the database. Oh, okay, you have to... Wait, why doesn't that work? Did you test that code, Doom? Does that work for you? Because it looks like you can't use a global scope on a factory. Yeah, okay. Looks like it's not. So maybe that's why maybe in my head I thought to myself, you probably can't remove a global scope in a... See, I would have thought there was a way to remove it like within the current request. In fact, I bet you there is. Where's the global scope section here? Query scopes. I mean, I really should just check the docs. Let's run down here. Applying global scopes, anonymous global scopes, removing global scopes. That's talking about removing it on the request. Local scopes. I think you have to pass the scope to the without global scope function. Oh, do you? I thought they just used it directly here. Well, they said without global scopes plural. Oh, let's try that plural. Yeah, actually, you're probably right. When you use singular without global scope. Oh, yes, you're right. So when you do it singular, you have to actually pass through the name of the global scope, which would make perfect sense in this scenario. And I don't know, how do I name it? Requesters IP scope? How do I know the name of the scope, though? Or if you define your globe using a closure. Okay, I didn't. I see now. We actually just need to pass the class through there. So let's do this. Requesters IP scope. Let's see if that imported, and it did. So we'll pass that class through, and we'll also whack it in here and see if that works. And we'll cross our fingers and try this again. Nope. Yeah, I'd say when you do that, you probably get a query in return. In fact, I'm pretty confident that's what you would get. Yeah, so the problem is this is going to give us a query, whereas when you're building a factory, I think it just fundamentally works differently, unfortunately. That's all right. We'll keep trying. That's what we do. We don't give up. We keep going, and we can build anything. Yeah, I know, right? I really feel like I can't get away from the fact that, like, I feel like it happens here. Um, I feel like we need to do something here to check whether or not we are getting an actual request or if we're getting something like that's related to testing. Like we should be able to somehow look at our environment to check whether or not it's a HTTP request. Maybe I can even do that. Laravel check is HTTP request. No, someone's trying to call me. I think it's my dad. One sec, guys. Hello? Oh, it's connecting. Hello? Maybe my... hello? Hello? All right. Dad tried to call, and it looked like it didn't work. Like this. All I need to do, I think, is phrase this right in Google. So, like, Laravel check is. We got 7 people here now. Maybe surely with everyone's help, we can figure this out. How do I check? Let me tell you all the problem. How do I check whether or not I am I'm receiving in the application it is a request, like an actual API request, or for example, something done with the CLI, like a CEDA or something like that. Sorry, my dad's calling again. Be right back, guys and girls. Hello? Yeah, really well. I'm just doing a stream. No, that's all right. Mm-hmm. Oh, and he liked it. Yeah, all right, let's go back there again. Shannon will absolutely love that. Um, what time would it be? Shannon's currently at badminton. Um, it goes for about 3 hours. What time is it now? Oh, I don't know. Maybe an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. All right, I'll shoot. Yeah, okay, that's probably the best way to do it. Shannon will probably be done by then. Oh, and you might want to book ahead. They get super busy there because their Thai is freaking amazing. Oh, that's true. It's hard to book ahead. Okay, let's find out. Like, maybe just give it half an hour, and we'll figure it out from there. Awesome. Talk to you soon. See you, Dad. Okay, we're back. What was I doing? Yeah. Still nobody's replied. Come on, guys, get involved. I need to know what to do here. Um, no, that's not what I want. Origin. Here we go. Okay, surely I can figure out from the origin. Laravel check request origin. If app running in... No way! Running in... That is literally exactly what I need. It's probably not dollar sign... Okay. Okay. Oh, Ricky, you legend. So we can get app by calling that, and now we can... Oh my gosh! Okay. running in console. Oh, dude, you're a legend. You are a legend. Now I can probably just say, let's use Laravel Ray to double check that. Run this. Ray set. Okay, good. Ray says false, and that's exactly what we want. However, when I run it here, DBC, and let's open up Ray again, I get true. Oh, yes. Ricky, thank you so much. That is exactly what I needed to know. So now we can just say, oh, it's so clean as well. Of course it's clean. We can say if app running in console, we want to not do that. We want to set the model IP to whatever it has been set to manually. Sorry, I just burped then. I just talk burped. That's so embarrassing. Everyone just forget that ever happened. And now that I'm talking about it, it's making it worse. You'll all remember. All right, so what am I doing? If we're running in console, we don't want to use the request IP. So basically, we want to say if it's not running in console. Thank you, Ricky. You are a legend. Ricky and Doom, the two guys of the hour. Now, we can come back here, run a GET request, and lol, that's so much easier. Yeah, I know, right? Oh, sorry, not seed. Why didn't that work? Insert into post. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So if we go to our post factory now, we want to come down here and make sure that we're doing the same thing with our IP address as we are with the user. So let's go to the user factory, grab that lot of code, and whack it in there. Let's try running that again. Nice, and it's working. So now we can say art db wipe, and I just want to double check that all of this works. Can I use like table plus here? I'm trying to use table plus when I teach because it's cross-platform. I usually use MySQL Workbench, but it's a little bit overwhelming for most people. Quasar cast, I guess. Let's go into. You guys can't see what I'm doing. I'm doing this behind the scene because I think I might have some work databases. Oh, no, not that one. That's production database. Oh, stuff it. I'll just do everything with Tinker. All right, so we just dropped everything. Now let's migrate the database, and when we're done, we're going to seed it. Now let's open up Postman, and let's get everything. We should end up with nothing. Good, that's exactly what we want. Now, however, if I say art tinker, and I say post or, it's still going to give me nothing, but if I go to, hang on, let's go to scopes to request. Maybe we can also use this same concept here when we're in Tinker. And I know I'm kind of like cheating the rules here a bit, but deal with it. If we're running in console, if we're not running in console, that is when we apply the scope. Otherwise, we'll just leave things as if. So let's say art tinker. We can get all of the posts now. This is freaking amazing. And now if I go back to Postman, it comes up with nothing. Wonderful development experience. And now we can push forward. Finally, whoo! But you know what? Getting over these little hurdles makes development in the future so much easier. Eventually, we're going to use a tool like Hygen to automatically generate all these files for us for new models. And it's going to be like super, super cool and super easy to do because we've got like this really nice setup now. All right, what am I doing? Next, I want to, next I think I wanted to add a comment. Yeah, that's what we were doing. So we've got users, but we want to actually have comments now. So let's say art make model, and we'll call this a comment, and we'll say all. Whoop, my brain's slowing down. I can feel it. Let's say comment.php, and then just like post, we're going to extend the scopes to request IP model. And now I can get rid of that. Super clean. Now, next thing I want to do is do the factory. So let's go comment factory, but it's actually better to do the migrations first, I think. So what do we have in a comment? I think it's literally just going to have, that's right, the whole reason we did all of this was so that a comment could relate to a user. So we'll say table user, no, what is it? Table, I think we'll say text in order for the body. And author, would you say it's an author of a comment or user? No, I only like using the word author when it's like a blog post or something like that. So I'm just going to say user. I think I can actually say foreign. I want to use the new Laravel way of doing this. Foreign ID 4. And now what I can actually do is say app model user. Let's try. Oh, that's not working. App model user. That's the correct place, isn't it? Models. We've got a user model. App. Oh, it's models, plural. Whoops. And now that works. Cool. So foreign ID for the user, and you can simply add constrained with the new Laravel. So this is really cool. It makes it super easy to basically say, this can reference a user. And by the way, I want you to constrain that. So I want you to make sure that you can't create, that it actually references a user that exists in the database. So just a really quick way of doing that without having to write all of the extra SQL. So the next thing we need to do is add the IP address. This is really important. Otherwise, nothing will work. Table IP. No, this should be string IP. And what else? I probably want to do something like, do I want to do any other constraints on this? No, I think that's literally it. So let's try art migrate and see if that works for us. And it does. By the way, check this out. If I say art tinker, and then we say comment, oh, we'll have to go ahead and create a comment first. I'll show you this in a second. So we've got the migration. Let's go ahead and go to the comment factory, and I'll go back into this file, and we want a body, and we want an IP. So let's come in here, body, IP, and set them equal to this faker, and the body is just going to be text, and the IP will be, we'll use that list from before. In fact, we should probably put that list in its own file. Where is it? Post factory. Yeah, I won't do it just now, but this is becoming a code smell to me, the fact that I'm using this list of IPs over and over again. So later on, we might consider putting that into its own file. Now, if I try and create this, it should not work. So let's say art tinker, comment, factory. Let's see if we can create one, and I should get an error. Yes, that's what I wanted. It's basically saying you can't create this comment unless it's got a user ID. And if I try and give it a dummy user ID that doesn't exist, that should also not work. User ID is equal to some random number. Yep, cool. That doesn't work because a user with that ID doesn't exist yet. So now let's go over to, we don't have to do anything else actually. We can just say art tinker and say create a, what is it, factory, the comment factory, and it's going to be for user class. I think I can just do that and then say create. Okay, so let's try app models user. Oh, for some reason it's not letting me use it straight out. So let's try this. App models comment. What? App models comment. Oh, I'm calling user directory. I should be calling. Oh, okay. We have to set up the relationship. Okay, comment.php. Public function user return this belongs to app user class. And there we go. Let's run that again and see if it works this time. App user not found. Oh, that's right. I need to get used to this. The models directory was added in a recent version of Laravel. And so I'm not used to adding models in there. Okay, cool. App. I spelled models wrong. Don't you have to add the relationships? Yeah, you were right. I wish there wasn't such a delay. In fact, I think what I can do is actually reduce the quality a little bit on YouTube to try and get rid of the delay. I won't do it now, but I'd really like to get rid of the delay just so I can have more of an interaction with all of you while I'm doing this. What was I in the middle of? Why would that not work? Oh, I spelled models wrong here. Models. I want to be a model. I looked at myself in a spoon and thought, I want to be a model. Some of you will get that reference, some of you will not. I think I can use it directly now. I probably don't have to add that to the front. Okay, here we go. User ID. I thought that was how you do it. It might be different for a belongs to relationship. Models in comment. Yeah. Oh, once again, I wish there wasn't a delay. You'd be able to catch my errors, sooner. So, yeah, lol. That is funny. Okay, so let's go back here and we'll have a look at factory. And I just want to look at the belongs to. Oh, what? Factory. Let's go to defining model factories. Will that show me how to use the factories as well? Yeah, I think it does. So now we want to find out how to do a belongs to relationship in a factory. But I know there's a simpler way that you can do this. Oh, for user. So he does this. He goes for user. Hey, it worked. There we go. So now I can use that line of code. I like to just, even though I know how to do it the old way, I like to try and force myself to learn the new way of doing things because it makes things go faster in the future. So that's my philosophy. I never want to become one of those fuddy-duddies who's like, oh, I've been around for a while and the old way we used to do things worked just fine. So I try and push myself to constantly learn new ways of doing things because I really do believe that it saves you time in the future. When I'm at work, I tend to just do stuff that I already know. But when I'm doing live streams and stuff in my own time, then it makes sense to push yourself, I believe, and it creates more benefit long term than if you sit there and you constantly say, oh, let's just do things the way I know how to do things. So I know it might be painful sometimes, but that's the way I'm going to work because it follows my philosophy. And it means that you all get to come along for the journey. And by the way, it means you cannot be a passive viewer. Like, thank you, Doom and Ricky. It's great that you guys haven't been passive and are actually like helping me along the way as I discover this stuff. It means I figure it out faster and I don't have to sit around and flail all the time. And it also means that you're learning stuff more actively through these screencasts. So I think that's really awesome. All right, let's go to Cedar, database Cedar. And then what we'll do is we will create comments using the factory. So let's say app models comment. And now I'm wondering, should I create the user and the comments as I'm creating the user? Yeah, that actually makes more sense. It makes more sense to go the other way around here. So app models user, and I'll probably have to check this in Tinker first. So let's say user factory for, or maybe with comments. With comments. I don't know. What's the API for many? It has many relationship. Yeah, has. So we use the word has instead. Yep. And then, of course, before I forget, we'll have to go to user.php and say public function comments and then return this has many app models comment. class. There we go. A user has many comments. And then we'll return has many here. Whoop. Okay, cool. So now I should be able to say user factory, and instead of the word for, what did I say that we used instead? Has posts, and I think I can literally just do that and then say how many posts it'll have. And let's just say 5. Or can I create a random number? How do you do a random number in PHP? PHP random int. Close that, close that, close that, close that. Looks like I can just say rand. Yep, that's exactly what I need. So let's try this. And a random number between 1 and, I don't know, 10. Let's try this and see if it works. We don't need that anymore. And now we should get some users, and we should get those users with some posts. No, not has posts. We wanted this to be comments. User, yeah, like this. Has comments. Really, I should set that up for posts as well. We might do that in a second. So let's get out of here. Art. We'll start afresh, wipe the database, migrate, and see if we can seed. Oh my gosh, that actually worked. Now let's say art tinker, and we should be able to say, for example, user first. Let's get the first user. I didn't get any users. I should have gotten a user. Maybe that user is being filtered out, but I thought we fixed that problem before. So let's say user all. Let's say post all. So the post is working, but the user isn't. So now let's go to user.php. We are in console mode. Okay, this had to do with filtering out the user. So it's not the boot. It should be here in the scope. Yeah, I thought I already wrote that code. Maybe I wrote it somewhere else. Basically, we want to say here, if we're running in the console, then simply give us, then do not add the scope. Yeah, if we're not running in the console, then add the scope. Yeah. And we don't need a parentheses there. Is that correct? Cool. So let's jump out of here. Art, tinker, user all. Do we literally not have any users? Just going to do a D. Let's use Ray here. Maybe I can make Ray smaller and just get it to stick down there. This might make it easier. Yeah, let's try that, and we'll make a new page. Can I do that? Yeah, cool. This should be a nice way to develop. So now we can say, hey, Ray, just double check that I am in console mode, but we don't want it in the boot. We actually want it here. And I'll just say here is console mode. Save that, exit out of here, jump in again, user or. That's not being run. Okay, it shouldn't be run though. So let's just console.log what we get here. I think this is actually working. Let's try again. Oh, okay, so it booted the application and then this happened. So yes, we are in console mode. If we are not, then I want you to add that global scope. All right, so therefore, it looks like we actually don't have any users. Man, I really need to just get my database stuff set up so we can test all of this properly. Oh, screw it. Let's just make it happen. I'm pretty sure you can see all this stuff. Yeah, there's nothing hidden in there, so I'm going to show you. that should all just work. Pretty sure I just use the word secret here as the password. Oh, do I have MySQL run? Oh, we're using SQLite. So let's go back to Table Plus. Let's add a new database because I'm pretty sure this supports SQLite as well. SQLite. And we'll call this Quasar blog API. Let's give it a pretty little color. And then I want to go to code. Quasar cast is where it's sitting in. And then we've got the blog API, database.sqlite. So let's save that and connect to it. Aha! So here's all of our posts. And we do not have users. See, this would have been so much easier to test. I'm sorry you guys had to go through that. Okay, so let's go into the CDAR and see what's going on here. We should be creating a user. So let's say art.db wipe and simply try it again. Art will migrate the database, and then we'll say art db seed. We'll run that manually. It's saying that it's seeded correctly. So now let's come back here. We have posts, but we do not have any users. Okay, so let's run this line of code within Tinker and start having a play around to see what's going on here. Tinker. Oh, I didn't call create on it. Well, that is just embarrassing. All right, wipe the database, migrate the database, see the database, and whoops, what am I doing? Let's come back here and run it again. We're still not getting anything. Oh no, there we go. We are actually getting a user now. Sasha Ryan. Nice to meet you, Sasha Ryan. Nice IP address. Okay, it's working. But let's just make a few more users, maybe 3. And then, yeah, so now we should end up with 4 users in the database. Sweet. Okay, this is working. Bazaar, welcome back. And now, what is next on the agenda of things to do? So, I really want to reach a point where I can just start building the API, but I keep getting distracted by these other shiny, cool things that I want to try. We can get rid of that. Now, we got our post. What's this model? Don't you have to add the relation? Oh, I'm reading messages from before. Okay, so we got a post, we got a user, we've got comments for that user. We are now going to build the comment API. So let's go to api.php, and we'll do it for users as well. And this should be really easy now. Users controller, and we also want to have a a comments controller. So let's go comments controller. So we should now be able to go to post controller, duplicate this, and let's name it comments. And we also want one for user. So let's duplicate this one as well. And we'll say users. Once again, I want to build generators for this down the line. And we simply change the word post everywhere to user. Check I haven't missed anything. That's fine. Let's go to the comments one. Post becomes comment. Comments plural. That all looks fine to me. And this is our post route. I think that might be it. So let's go and have a look and see if all of this works. So I should be able to get all of my posts. It looks like currently there's none. Well, wait, we've already tested posts. So let's add another one here by duplicating that. And we will call this, let me get rid of those. Save, get rid of that. We'll call this comment. We can't make comments without users. So let's do user first. No authentication. And let's go ahead and have a look at some of these requests. We literally just changed that to comments. Save that. Let's go to create, change that to comments. Oh, no, sorry, this is users. Users. And users. Now, I should get no users by default. That's exactly what I wanted. But I can go ahead and create my own user by giving them a name. And let's set it to Lugu. That's the nickname that I give myself. And there we go. I created a user called Lugu, and he has an IP address of 5. So let's come over here and get all of our users, and there's Lugu with an IP address of 5. Next thing I want to do is try and create a comment using that user. So let's add, whoops, delete that. It's 1:30. Whoa, almost 1:30 a.m. here in Canada, and I'm pretty tired. So, oh, you're in Canada. Wait, Doom, are you actually Jeff? No, you're not Jeff. I already know you're not Jeff because I've talked to you on Discord before. You know the guy that creates the app extensions for Quasar is from Canada as well. He's the one that created the Q Calendar extension. He's an absolute legend. Yeah, also a really nice guy. So that's awesome. Maybe you guys can meet up and talk about Quasar stuff, depending on the COVID situation over there. All right, so we can get them. We can create them. Now we're going to add a folder. Whoops. I want to make it. Oh man, this is so finicky. All right, delete the folder. I want to add. Can I do it up here? Yep. And this is going to be for comments. So we've got, let me just get rid of these two here. This is one thing I hate about Postman. I can't make it so that it just focuses on one thing at a time. It keeps adding tabs at the top, and I hate developing in that way. I absolutely hate it. I like searching for everything. So anyway, let's try adding some of our comment endpoints now. Well, I'm going to delete that. The way I wanted to do this was duplicate. Sorry, I'm all over the place right now. Let's change it from user to comment. Come here and say get. And we change that to comments. Copy that. And to create one, we say comments. So let's get all of our comments, and we should get nothing. That's good. We get nothing. Now let's go ahead and create a comment. We'll go to the body. We don't have a title for a comment. It only has a body. So can I delete it like this? Yep, there we go. And now this should not work because we don't have a user ID. And it's trying to write to the log file. And I'm guessing that's because of the user ID. So what we actually want to do though is add a little bit of validation in here. So basically what's happening, I think the reason that we're getting this is that it's trying to write to my log file and it's not working because I don't have permission to view the log file because I've done something stupid with the permissioning there. And then basically what it's saying, but what I think is happening is it's not working in the database. And what we want to do is we want to say, hey, does this user exist in the database? If they don't exist, then you cannot go ahead and create this comment. So that should be super easy to do. Try Insomnia instead of Postman. Anyways, have a good one. Yeah, I used to use Insomnia. I moved to Postman because I needed the extra functionality, but Insomnia is so much nicer. Oh, it's so much nicer to use. It's so much more beautiful. Postman feels super cluttered. Oh, my dad's calling again. I'll be right back, guys. Give me a second. Hello, hello. That certainly is it. The time is 5:27. Shannon just got home, I think. So if you want to go in like an hour, then that'll work out perfectly. Yep, okay. That gives me about half an hour to finish streaming. Yeah, probably for the best, because last time we went there, it was packed. All right, see you soon. Bye. And we're back. Okay. Yeah, you too. Have a good one. Have a good one. Okay. Man, I've got about half an hour, probably even less than that, to finish up. So let's set ourselves a goal and then go super fast. I'll get out of that. I'll get out of that. I can probably get out of that as well. So next I want to make it so that we've got authentication. Let me show you how to do that. Sorry, not authentication, validation. So what we can do is create a request for users. So we can say, and we're going to go to Laravel Orion to find out how to do that. So Laravel Orion, and I believe it's under security. Yep, security. And it shows you how to do it here. The Orion way of doing this is like super easy. Yep. So this is how you create a custom request, and it needs to sit in Orion HTTP requests and then request. Oh no, that's just what it provides. Where do I have to put this though? App HTTP requests. Okay, cool. So let's come in here and create, in fact, I'll probably do it through here and then I'll just copy paste it in there. Art, make request, and we will call this user request. And let me just come back to here. I think it's singular, not plural. Yep, user request. So now we've got that request in here. I'm going to paste what is in the Orion docs, change post here. Hey, how you doing? I don't know how to say your name. Hussam. That's my best attempt at it. I think you made a comment recently about something that you wanted me to like show you. So maybe remind me again here so that I can remember, and I'll try and remember to create that thing that you wanted me to create. I try to remember, like I try to take note of the people that comment, and I notice that you've been really active in the community. So, yeah, if there's something that you want me to create, then I might be able to sort of bump it up the priority list. That's right, it was related to layouts, I remember now. Okay, so a user has got to have a name. That's going to be required. And a user, and this is going to be under common rules. I don't think we'll need store rules here. What was the other one? A user also has that's it. They only need a name. Now we want to do the exact same thing, but for a comment. So I'm going to duplicate this and change that to comment request. Let's change the word user here to comment. Now, a comment has got to have a user ID. Yes, how or where to get. Oh, that's right. It was yeah. This is something I've had a lot of trouble with as well, because you kind of need to know a little bit about Flexbox, and the docs does a really great job of explaining this. But there's always, you know what it's like. There's always little bits of nuance around that kind of thing. So yeah, I definitely need to. In fact, maybe I'll do a stream on it. A stream with myself, basically revising it and learning how to do it properly, so that I can then teach it later on. But because the good thing about doing a stream is at least you guys then have that information there, even if it's a little bit harder to get to. All right, so a comment needs to have a user ID, but I think there's a way of doing it in Laravel where you can basically check that it's in the database. So let's say Laravel validation rules. They got fantastic docs for this kind of thing. And I think it's like exists in database. So exists. Yep, exists and then database. So let's see how they do it. You say the name. Column options. So state. Wait, so which one is the database? So in this case, the rule will validate that the state's database. So the second one is the database. The first one is the. Yeah, look, I don't blame you. This Flex stuff is tough. Actually, in the meantime, check out laracast.com, and I think there is a free series on Flexbox. If you like the way I teach, you will love the way that Jeffrey Way teaches. Jeffrey Way is my inspiration for everything that I build, so definitely check out some of his stuff. Flexbox is amazing. Let me find this series and I'll paste it in there for you. Oh, man. I know that he has. I know he's got a series on this. I'm sure of it. Learn Flexbox through examples. Yep. Here we go. Especially if you want to know the fundamentals behind what's actually. Excuse me, I burped. Especially if you want to know the fundamentals behind what's actually happening with Quasar, then it's definitely worth checking out this series. Jeffrey Way is a phenomenal teacher, and it looks like this is free. Yeah, this whole series is free, it looks like, which is fantastic. And he's the best teacher on the planet. He's better than me, hands down, so check it out. The other one to check out is possibly Tailwind Flexbox. Their docs are usually fantastic, and they use utility classes as well. So a lot of this is going to relate to what happens in the Quasar docs. Does he actually teach you how to use Flexbox? Okay, so maybe don't use this. Yeah. Okay, probably not the best example. Just check out the Laracast series I sent, and I'll be modeling a lot of what I do off of that series that I just sent in the comments. All right, validation. So we should be able to say user ID, or I think you can even be more specific. Here we go. Here's how they do it. So let's copy that, paste it in there. So user ID exists. That's the model that we're using, and we're going to check the ID on that table. Cool. Tailwind is the future. I half agree and I half don't agree. I think Tailwind is fantastic. However, I think there are frameworks where Tailwind simply doesn't make sense. I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this, but I do not believe that for most projects, I do not believe you need Tailwind. And I have written virtually no CSS. I have a production application that is quite large. I've been building it for about 3 years now. I've written almost no CSS, and I've just used the helpers in Quasar. So having said that, if you want to completely redesign a lot of stuff in Quasar, and you're one of those people who just you can't help it. You want to have more control over the design of your site, which I totally get. In that case, it might make sense to use something like Tailwind with Quasar. However, we still need to find ways to basically extract a lot of the CSS out of Quasar. It's designed in such a way where you're supposed to use the Quasar CSS, but the cool thing about Tailwind is that you can put things in and out. So what I think might make sense is that somebody creates a Tailwind configuration file for Quasar, where basically you use Quasar's CSS helpers, but then for certain things you use Tailwind on top of that. Especially like using the new JIT compiler. So rather than trying to basically replace the way Quasar uses CSS, which I just think it's a bad idea. And I think it's ruining a whole bunch of really awesome things that Quasar's done. And believe it or not, Quasar was using utility classes before Tailwind was around, or a lot of these frameworks was around. And I think we should be embracing those utility classes. They're fantastic. They're easy to learn. And then once you've got a grasp of them, you can then use that in tandem with something like Tailwind. So I think Tailwind is fantastic, but we need to be careful of how we use it in relation to Quasar. I didn't know I can use Tailwind with Quasar. You can use Tailwind with everything. I mean, at the end of the day, you're just building CSS. Tailwind is specifically designed to be basically a framework agnostic framework, if I can put it that way. But having said that, I wouldn't use it with Quasar unless you really need it. Once again, unless you really you need that extra design functionality, then go for it. Otherwise, what we have available with Quasar out of the box is awesome. Here's the other thing. For most people, even if they want some extra design, I totally agree with what you said. Yeah. See, I think we need more education around this because, and I've been the victim of this in the past. Sorry, guys, I'm probably not going to get all of this done because I want to talk about this. I think this is important. I've been a victim of this in the past where you want to you see all these cool new technologies and you want to use them and somehow you want to throw it into what you're doing. And by doing that, I fell into this trap with Laravel. And by doing that, you end up doing things. You don't do things the Laravel way, or you don't do things the Quasar way, and you don't embrace what you currently have. And I think that's really dangerous, especially for newcomers. And the reality is that people will make these mistakes despite of my advice and learn anyway, which is totally fine. But the problem is, let me just gather my thoughts here. If we just try and follow the new shiny thing, and we don't then often what'll happen is you'll bring Tailwind into your project too early. Whereas in reality, I think that you should build an application with Quasar, build the thing that you want to build, create the vision of the app itself. And then when you hit the brick wall of having like not being able to design things the way you want to design them, then you can start thinking about introducing Tailwind. So that's my philosophy with development. Wait, unless you have a very, very clear vision and you have a lot of experience as a developer, and you already have a great idea, you've got like 4 or 5 years of knowledge, and you know the kinds of problems you tend to run into, and you know you're going to hit these problems, even then I'd be wary about it. I think it's better to wait until you hit the brick walls, wait until you start seeing repetitions in your code. So if you start writing the same CSS over and over again, or if it starts getting a bit unwieldy, then you start thinking about introducing Tailwind. I have been building a website with a company every day, 7 hours a day for about 3 years now. The app is getting quite big. And I still have no reason to bring in a CSS framework. And I say that with confidence. In fact, the only CSS I write, like there are no style tags in my view files. The only CSS I write is inline CSS. And I know that might sound crazy to a lot of you, but I will actually, in fact, do I have a .view file? No, there's no .view files, but the only time I would use it is, let's just say I have a component, like, let's just say we have a Q input component. I would literally say, for example, style, and then enter in my style tags directly there. And like, I would rather do that before writing my own CSS. But that's usually because it's only little things. For example, max width is 300 pixels, right? And some people think that's disgusting. I think they should get over it. It works. It works really well, especially for things like setting the width of certain stuff. And so, yeah, anyway, I just really wanted to bring that up. I think it's super important that we don't optimize too early, especially if you're a beginner. Spend as long as it takes to figure out whether or not that thing is in your framework. In fact, check this out. If we go to quasar.dev, they've got awesome search in their documentation. If you want to know how to add a margin, search for the word margin. Oh, that's one of my videos. So come to something like, type in the word margin and have a look in the docs. Here we go. We've got an options and helpers section here. What else have we got? Using margin CSS. Okay, I'm not finding exactly what I want. But if you, like, in terms of the style related stuff, where is it? There's a really good, like, section that shows you. That'll be right. I'll try and find it. It's probably under, like, positioning. Man, this is embarrassing. It's probably under spacing. Ah, here it is. Yeah, get super familiar with this. I use this stuff all of the time. In fact, I'll paste it into the comments. If you want to be able to do like your spacing and your margining and a whole bunch of that layout related stuff, check out this part of the documentation. It is so helpful. So like all those utility classes you see in things like Tailwind, a lot of that actually comes out of the box with Quasar. So check out the spacing. I use the shadows all of the time. If I don't like the card shadows and I want to make something flatter, or if I want it to stick out more, then you check out like some of these spacing classes. It's got pretty much all of what you need. Anyway, I gotta go now, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around and having some fun with me. Basically, what we created today, for those of you that don't know, is I wanted to create an API that basically allows people following my getting started guides to very easily have an API that they can use to get started. So we've got something like typeycode.com. Right, and you can say, for example, posts, and then you've basically got a dummy post request endpoint there. But I wanted to create my own version of this so that you when you're creating your applications, you could go to quasarcast dot it would be, for example, blog-quasarcast.com/posts, right? At the moment, that's not going to work. But yeah, I've got it working on my test version of the server. So that anyway, it looks like I've done something wrong here. Blog-API, that's what it should be. .quasarcast.test. Yeah, and that means that when you guys are building your getting started applications, I think I had something on GIMP. Oh, it's gone now. When you're creating a getting started application, what this API will actually do is scope to your IP address. So you'll be able to create posts without having to start up a server, a local API server, and I'll be able to like teach you Quasar getting started stuff, and you'll be able to use this dummy API. And whenever you create posts, it will scope it to your IP address so that you can basically have a full working API that you can play around with in order to create your own applications. Anyway, I've got to go. I'm about to go out to have some Thai with my girlfriend and my dad and my brother. It's going to be super awesome. Thank you everybody so much for watching. And yeah, I'm going to keep working on this, and I can't wait to release it and release my Getting Started series so that